Ryan Poles has a press conference before the draft combine, and by judging some of his comments, there are some positions on the Chicago Bears that just aren't safe, and they shouldn't be safe. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Terry Hayes. More importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And so Ryan Poles had a press conference yesterday with the media, and he said some things that not only put into question the future of Braxton Jones, but also the running back situation. But one thing that I think a lot of Bears fans are going to be happy to hear, he talked about how aggressive the Chicago Bears are going to be in free agency, saying this: the clearer the vision, the more aggressive you can be, and that's important. You want to be selective in free agency, but if there are certain players that hit all the check boxes that you need, there's really no reason to hold back, and you can be aggressive in those situations. Now, he said the clearer the vision. And I would hope that one of the clearest visions that the Chicago Bears share throughout the entirety of the front office is the importance of upgrading your offensive line, right? And when you look at the number of offensive free agents between Will Fries to Trey Smith, to Drew Dalman, to Evan Brown, right? To these guys, Mekhi Becton, right? To these guys that are out there available, that should provide a clear vision, right? And of course, the biggest name on the table is Trey Smith. We all know that, right? But there are a number of guys that just make so much sense for the holes that are on that Chicago Bears team that the Bears have to be aggressive. So to hear that Ryan Poles is willing to be aggressive because it's a clearer vision, good. Because listen, Poles, you should have had a clearer vision last year, but woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? I'm not going to sit here and harping on what he could have or should have done last year. This year, with the cap space that the Bears have, almost $80 million, right, in cap space. When you look at that, paired with the fact of the number of free agents that are on the board that can help shore up this offensive line, you better go out there and be aggressive. Now, you got to have partners to get it done. You got to have players that are willing to take what you have to offer. And that means that the Bears are going to have to be aggressive in the money that they offer, but also selling on the vision of what this team can be. But that means that the Bears are going to have to do it, right? But he did say this. He was asked about Trey Smith. He said, I'm not going to get into players that aren't on the roster right now when asked about Trey Smith directly. But, and that's what Ryan Poles, he's not going to answer directly on another team's players. But when you look at the number of players that are available on that offensive line, pairing that with the players that are available on that defensive line, including Josh Sweat, Khalil Mack, Chase Young, right? These guys as well. The Bears, really, the excuses aren't there for the Chicago Bears to not shore up and fix some things that they need to fix. So I'm glad to hear that Ryan Poles is ready to be aggressive. I'm glad to hear that there is a plan to be aggressive about this team and improvement of this team in free agency, because we do need it. Now, one of the things, and I talked about this on yesterday's episode, had to correct myself. I said a tibia that Braxton Jones broke was a fibula. He fractured the fibula late in the season. Now, he did say that he is on schedule for rehab. The insiders reported that it was a 4-month recovery time. But I still think this, with Braxton Jones here, whether his injury or whatever else, you got to try to find somebody that can at least compete with him, if not outright take that position, right? Post did say this: we got to see how he comes out of the other side with this. Meaning that there's some doubt internally, at least the way that I read it, that there is some doubt internally as well about how Braxton Jones is going to recover from this. Somebody who already didn't handle the bull rush correctly, right? So, I think those things are all pointing to it. There are a lot of tackles available in this draft. I was in a conversation with somebody in the comment section where they were like, because in my mock draft, of course, I had the Bears drafting Mbao, and he was like, well, why would we draft somebody in the first round that's not going to be a starter? Why? There's no way he's going to pass up Braxton Jones. Mbao, regardless of the size aspect of it, his technique is better than Braxton Jones. He already is not going to be somebody that you can do the bull rush on. But outside of that, Kelvin Banks Jr., Josh Simmons, Will Campbell, there are a lot of guys here in the draft as well that make a lot of sense. But, we'll see what the Bears do in free agency. But Braxton Jones in the injury, right? Regardless of how you feel about Braxton and his performance, because we've run the gamut, right? I've said it before. Braxton Jones isn't as bad as what some people make him out to be, but he isn't as good enough to where you can't upgrade from him as a starter either, right? I think that's just the reality of Braxton Jones, especially in the last year of his deal where you got to look to get ready to, if you're going to pay him or not. I think there are enough question marks about him, even without the injury, with just his performance on the field, that you have to question if he's the right long-term option for you at that tackle position. So why not, especially with the talent that's at tackle in this draft, now go ahead and find his replacement, right? That's the way that I look at it. But then when you add in the layer of the injury and how he could respond back with that injury, yeah, he could be recovered in 4 months to where he can get back on the football field. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be recovered in the sense that the timing's going to be there, that he's not going to have to get acclimated to being back on that leg, which in the football season, you take too long to get back ready. Listen, you're hurting your team, right? So I think there's a lot of that. And the comments around Braxton Jones do show that, hey, you want to see how he's going to return, but you can't wait to that, right? Especially if you see options that either way can either push him or outright win that or take that starting tackle position from Braxton Jones. So Braxton's going to have an uphill battle, I would say. But, in the same sense, though, if they improve the other other three positions, because Darnell Wright's going to stay there as well, if they improve the other three positions, get some better depth in here, Braxton could have another year to try to prove himself, to see if he can be a long-term starter here for the Bears with an improved offensive line. And I think that's a fair thing to say as well. Like, two things can be true at the same time. You can absolutely upgrade and get a surefire starter, somebody who's better, especially at the things that Braxton Jones has not improved at yet in his NFL career. But you can it's equally valid to say, all right, listen, I want to see him with better coaching, a better scheme, better overall talent on that offensive line. Let's see what we got in Braxton with the last year on his deal. I can see that as well. But like I said, that added layer of the injury is what kind of just adds something a little bit extra to that makes me a little concerned with it all. But, I'm not paid to make that decision. That's Ryan Poles. That's Ben Johnson. That's the offensive line coach. That's Ian Cunningham. That's their jobs to make this decision on how they want to shape up that roster. But I do think in a year where you can get really good starters even in the second round for the offensive line this year, and the free agents that are out there as well. You focus on the positions that you absolutely need to upgrade first, but there's still absolutely a world in which Braxton Jones, may not be there. And so, he'll still be here. I think he's going to be on the roster regardless, but he may not be that starter when it comes down to it. But, we'll see what it comes down with that. But Ryan Poles also in this media day, press conference, whatever you want to call it, he talks so glowingly about Ben Johnson, saying this. You can tell the high football IQ is on a totally different level than what I've seen and been a part of before. So it's really good. Now, you can take that as a shot to Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus's existence is a shot to football, so I don't really care if he's taking a shot at Matt Eberflus or not. I don't think that's the way that it was intended. I think he's just literally talking glowingly about his new head coach, which he should do, right? But I think that the IQ that Ben Johnson brings to this, the football IQ, and hopefully how that transcends to situational awareness. And, Ben Johnson's done a really good job at surrounding himself with some veteran coaches that all can call plays, all have drawn up plays, as well as having Dennis Allen on that defensive side of the ball, right? There's some really, it's some reason to really believe in what this new coaching staff can bring to this team. And so the new level of excitement for the Chicago Bears is warranted, right? I've said it before. I'm just a scarred fan, so I'm not going to let myself get too excited until I see the results on the football field. Not to say you guys shouldn't be excited, not to say that Bears Nation shouldn't be excited, and Ryan Poles, the players, everybody should be excited. And I'm not saying that I'm not necessarily excited. It's just I just got to wait and see. I've gotten my hopes up too much over my time being a Chicago Bears fan to where, I'm a little jaded when it comes down to it, but you can't deny what Ben Johnson's bringing here. You can't deny his resume, how he draws up offenses and all those type of things. And so we're going to see what Ben Johnson continues to bring and how he helps develop this team, because this is a team that needs it, right? And so we'll see what happens there. But with that as well, Ryan Poles, one of the biggest question marks, right? I've talked about how Bleacher Report the other day had a report going on that the Bears could look to trade DeAndre Swift. They had the Raiders and getting an extra day 3 pick out of that. But either way, there's been a lot of talk about the Bears drafting a running back, signing a running back. Just overall, under Ben Johnson, wanting to upgrade that running back position. Ryan Poles said this: "We're going to take a look at what's available to us. I really believe it lines up with the additions. I really believe it lines up with the additions we're going to have over these next two player acquisition periods of free agency and the draft. We'll be in a position to have a strong run game, stay balanced, which in turn helps the quarterback out." So, with that said, him saying that it aligns with what they plan to do in the next two player acquisition periods, to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that sounds like to me that running back is on the table for acquisition for the Chicago Bears this offseason. So I know we got a voicemail over the weekend where somebody where the caller was like, "Hey, everybody, you got to shore up that offensive line. Everybody who thinks that we're going to draft a running back." And his reasoning was valid. It's not a shot at him. His reasoning was absolutely valid. But I think that the Bears are definitely going to shore up they can shore up the offensive line regardless. But I do think running back is going to be one of those positions that they attack. And for what that's worth already, from what we've heard, the Bears already have a meeting lined up with Ashton Jeanty. Now, you can take that for what you will, right? So the Bears joined the Giants, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Steelers, Colts, Chargers, Ravens, and Saints that have formal meetings already set up with Ashton Jeanty. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the Bears are going to draft him. The Bears are going to, like they always do, they're going to look at all the options. They're going to meet with a lot of people. They're going to take a look at everything that's available to them. But with as much as people are talking about the Bears potentially drafting Ashton Jeanty, it is something to look at for as well. When you look at what he did in 2024, 374 carries, 2,601 yards, 30 total touchdowns, 29 of those being rushing on the ground. Jeanty is a monster, right? And he is somebody that I've said before that if he's there at number 10, you got to consider, depending on how you've addressed other things in free agency, to draft him. Now, once free agency opens up and we see how aggressive the Bears are about getting some of these more expensive veteran offensive linemen in, it'll kind of point and give us a little bit more inclination on what the Bears are going to do. But here's the thing, man. I tell y'all what, again, the offensive line has to be done and taken care of regardless. I want to be clear. So I'm talking about this under the guise and the mindset that the Bears are going to find one way or another to take care of the offensive line. But when you see Jeanty and you watch the way that he runs and you think about having that in a backfield with Caleb Williams, Roshan Johnson, Cole Kmet at tight end, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and an improved offensive line, I tell you what, I'm not gonna label anything on how good or label anything on how good that offense can be on paper. But I tell you what, I that's an offense that I can get behind, that I can sit there and say, all right, you've done enough to add something to see what's going to happen. And it also just coincides with how Ben Johnson likes to run his offense, what he's like to have in the backfield. Not necessarily saying that he's going to try to, he's already said he's not going to try to replicate the Detroit Lions here in Chicago, but it is something to look out for. So, Ben Johnson was even asked about DeAndre Swift and kind of played a little coy in regards to that as well, right? He did say, Ben Johnson said this, I've always been a big fan of Swifty, and I believe that he can ignite the offense as a playmaker. So he's looking forward to working with him this spring. So, you take people's words for what they are, but I think when you pair that with the actions of the Chicago Bears going out and setting up a meeting with Jeanty already, tell you what, man, this is going to be a fun thing to watch. But you know what's going to be fun more than anything, mainly because I'm an anarchist, is how Bears fans react if at number 10 the Chicago Bears draft Jeanty. We're going to be live for the draft, so I can't wait to watch and see how that's going to go out and shake out. But I tell you what, man, we'll see what's going to happen here, man. But to take all of that, between the comments of Ryan Poles, between the draft combine starting up this weekend, there's going to be a lot of news. So you guys make sure y'all stay locked in with us here at Chicago Bears Central, because I'm sure the videos are going to be coming fast when it comes down to all this content that we're going to be dropping. But I think everything right now is exciting. And when you look at Ben Johnson and the vision that he has for the Chicago Bears team, that's the thing that makes this so much more different than what we've seen so far under a head coach, right? Is that he just has a game plan, and he has a level of confidence, and you've seen what he's already been able to do. So, Bears not wasting any time, lining up and meeting with Jeanty. Ben Johnson talking about how he wants to use Caleb and overall the offense and things like that. Like, this is an exciting time period, man. But you guys can let me know how you feel on everything down below. Let me know as well, right? with the Bears and Ryan Poles saying that they're going to be aggressive, do you think the Bears make a splash signing? Let me not splash. That they make a big signing, because splash makes it sound like it's not as big. But do they make a big signing on day one of free agency? Do you think the Bears open free agency up with a pretty big signing? Or do you think it's going to take a little while of time? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Otherwise, make sure you're following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.